Hello my friends, and welcome to this morning yin yoga practice. And this sequence will stretch into the whole body, the hips, the spine, the upper body, and we'll have intervals of about 3 minutes for each pose. So let's go ahead and get started, coming into a child's pose to begin. So climbing into your version of child's pose, which might be knees narrow, might be knees wide. You could have your arms out in front, or if you prefer to have them down at your sides. This is a lot of permission in this practice to do things the way that it feels right for you. And taking these first few moments to settle into whatever stretching you're feeling in your back, your hips, maybe stretching in the front of the shins. And start to settle into the rhythm of your breath. And in child's pose, with your forehead connected to the earth, you can begin to really allow the connection to the earth to come into your awareness. The way your head, your shins, your hands are connected to the ground. And you can imagine that when you exhale, whatever you don't need is pouring out through these points of contact to be metabolized by the earth. And whatever you do need, you can draw in from the earth with each inhale. And now slowly coming up to hands and knees. And from hands and knees position, step your right leg forward, coming into waking dragon. So your hands can be on the inside of your foot, or they can be on either side of the foot. Or you can play around with your alignment here. As you might know, in yin, there's a lot of options for varying your body position within the poses. You could have one hand on the ground and one hand on the knee, and you could let your hips dip down to the side, or you could keep them more level. So taking this segment to find your own version of dragon pose with the idea of stretching into the front of the left thigh and the front of the left hip. And feel free to let yourself move a little bit. In this pose in particular, compared to the other yin poses, I find that I and a lot of people I've spoken with about it just really like this pose a lot better when they're not feeling like they have to stay completely still. We're still working in a yin manner because we're keeping the legs and the hips relaxed, letting gravity do the work. Saying good morning to these hips. You might enjoy the reach back to do this variation called dragon tail. And if that's not in your range of motion, don't worry about it. Just keep exploring the other variations. Starting to get the fluid moving in the legs, the thighs, the hips. And slowly release. You could step back into downward dog and maybe walk the legs out a little bit here. Or any way that you'd like to transition to the other side. And when you're ready, step your left leg forward. You can drop the knees first and come into your exploration of dragon pose. And that's two sides of dragon. Take the leg back, another downward dog, or if your body's not up for that, child's pose instead for about 30 seconds. And drop the knees and transition to a seated position for half butterfly. Right leg forward, left leg bent, and come over the leg. Or if you want to first arrange a pillow under your seat, feel free. Any kind of props you would like to use in these poses to help make yourself more comfortable. And we can come directly over the leg, or we can angle inside the leg. You can explore and see what feels best. And the target area here is, of course, the back of the leg, the hamstrings, maybe the back of the torso as well. If you're like me and you have a lot of torso tension in particular, you might feel it more in the torso than the leg. I feel it in both places, really. And soften and relax as you breathe smoothly and steadily. And slowly rise up. Take both legs out in front of you and just pause for a moment, feeling the effects after that first side. And now moving into the second side of half butterfly. And slowly release and just pause at the top once again. You could take both legs into a cross-legged position this time. After stretching into the backs of both legs and the back of the torso in half butterfly, notice what you feel in your body, what's happening inside. And taking it into an outer hip stretch. So this will be your choice of square pose, right leg on top as you come forward, or shoelace pose, with the knees more on top of each other. Anything in between, as long as it stretches here into the right glutes, then you've got a variation that works. And if this is still too much for you, if both variations are too much, you can try the square but with both feet on the ground. And if it still doesn't work for you or isn't giving you that stretch, then you can do the figure 4 pose on your back as a wonderful alternative that works for a lot of people. And I tend to not use a cushion for this, but a lot of people love this pose best with a cushion under the seat. So any of the seated, forward bending type poses that we do in yin, you are always invited to explore sitting on a cushion. And as we breathe into this a little bit more, keep in mind that you could explore also the angle of your torso, maybe veering to the left a bit more or veering to the right a bit more, and see how that affects what you're feeling in the target area, in the right buttock area. All right, very slowly now, coming up and changing sides, square or shoelace, and coming forward. Again, inviting yourself to explore, maybe not being straight ahead, but finding an angle that works better. And slowly rise up. Make your way into child's pose, just for a moment. And now coming up to hands and knees and making your way into puppy pose. So from hands and knees, you'll take your hands a few inches forward and settle the heart down toward the ground as the hips stay up nice and high. So this is our stretch for the armpit area, maybe the front of the ribs is where you'll also feel it. And we're getting a nice back bending direction of our upper spine and our cervical spine, the neck. If you're super open or bendy in this area, you might have your chest on the ground or your chin on the ground. And some people like to do this with a block under the head. Melting heart pose is what it's also called. You can explore the variations of whether or not your arms are more straightened or if you're going to let your elbows relax down. And you also could vary whether your palms are up or down, especially if you're having the elbows on the ground. Or they could just be somewhere in between. So there's nothing magical about palms down for these poses. And lastly, a variation that many people enjoy is to bend the elbows, place the palms together, or at least just the hands cross in some way to come to the upper back. And this will get into the triceps in a nice way at the backs of your arms. And now releasing and just settle it back into child's pose once again. And let's take the arms down to the sides so that we can give the shoulders a little break from that direction. And now coming forward all the way onto the belly for Sphinx. So we rest on the elbows and forearms. Once again, your palms could be down, and that's our archetypal way to do the Sphinx, the way we think of the Sphinx. But we could also just have the hands clasped or palms up, or hold opposite elbows. So this pose is about the lower back, about stretching into the lumbar spine, or not really stretching actually, but compressing. So this is a therapeutic kind of compression we're working to create in the sacrum and lumbar spine. And you can intensify this by lifting more energetically through the crown of your head. And even though yin is not generally an energetic practice, we can add it in this way as long as you keep your lower back and your buttocks relaxed as much as you can. Maybe your legs enjoy coming a little wider or a little narrower. Feel free to play with that. And try and keep the legs relaxed if you can. And if the saddle pose is part of your practice, and if you'd like to do that instead, please feel free. And slowly release. Come on down and press hips up and back to child's pose. Rest here. And releasing to come into Dragonfly pose with wide legs, maybe a cushion under the seat if you'd like, and coming forward. And if you are someone who just doesn't enjoy this pose or doesn't feel it in the target area, which is the inner thighs, then you could try butterfly instead. Soles of the feet together and coming forward in the same way. Prop options, a cushion under the seat, blocks under the forearms, whatever you need to be comfy here. You could keep it more still, or you could also explore side to side movement here. Just keeping it slow. Keeping yourself connected, mind and body. And staying connected with your breath. Slowly coming up out of Dragonfly and make your way onto your back for your final relaxation Savasana time. Make yourself totally comfortable, spread out as much as you'd like, and feel and absorb the wonderful benefits and spaciousness created by this practice. Getting ready to enter into your day feeling open, calm, clear. And I will leave you here to rest for as long as you'd like. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a wonderful day. If you're interested in going deeper with me, check out my membership site. I have a community of yogis who follow a daily calendar of yoga videos in yin yoga, yang flow, and meditation. I also have special programs, and I have yin yoga teacher trainings, and you can find out more about this at devidailyyoga.com. And if you take a look at the first pinned comment down below, you'll see my latest special offer. And if you liked this video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other yoga videos. And leave me a comment. Let me know how this practice went for you. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to know if you have any questions for me. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Namaste.